Would you like to understand how to reduce your own suffering in life? Then I suggest you listen to this entire video on the Noble Eightfold Path in Buddhism. Alright, so Buddhism as a religion is predicated on something called the Four Noble Truths. Now, what these Four Noble Truths explain is that life is suffering. Suffering stems from cravings, desires, and you alleviate suffering by going through this Noble Eightfold Path. Now, the Noble Eightfold Path is a set of 8 statements that are not sequential and they're not chronological, so you don't go through them one after the other. They're sort of mutually independent. And each statement starts with the word right. So, for example, right speech or right action. And what the word right is inferring is that it's an ideal. It's like a perfect ideal that you strive towards. And the Noble Eightfold Path, the 8 statements, are grouped into 3 sections. There is wisdom, mental discipline, and ethical conduct. And we will dive into ethical conduct today. I already uploaded a previous video on the wisdom section, and today we'll go into ethical conduct. So, ethical conduct first starts with right speech. Now, what does right speech entail? Right speech entails avoiding lies, avoiding slanderous speech, so that means falsely harming the reputation of other people with lies, so to say. And also, right speech entails avoiding harsh, violent, let's say aggressive language, and also, very interestingly enough, but it makes sense, idle chatter, so just gibberish, useless speaking. That's also supposed to be, one is supposed to avoid that. Now, I would say one could group this all into speaking the truth on an aggregate level. Why is this important? Well, thinkers like Jordan Peterson say the truth redeems the world from hell. So let's say the truth redeems your life from terrible situations. And I think that is very much true because lies are what lets you slip into a life of deception, and it's bad in the sense that when you lie, you corrupt your own ability to absorb the world truthfully for what it really is. And when you lie, you corrupt yourself more and more, so it makes it harder and more difficult to actually climb back out and see the truth for what it really is. And if you want to solve problems in life, one needs to see the problem for what it really is. And if you can't see that, you can't solve your problems, really. And if you engage in problems, which you will, it's part of life because life is suffering, then you can't reduce it, you can't solve the problem. That's why right speech is so important. And it's also part of ethical conduct because how you express yourself, it determines the fate of other people. I mean, the classic example is Nazi Germany. What led to let's say the Holocaust and the moral decline of an entire nation? I think it's basically, I would say it's people participating in the lies, so lying, not speaking the truth, and also the moral degeneration of the people is what led to it. But it's basically their own ability to see what is real and what's right and wrong, and that's what led to it. Hence, right speech, very important. Next Noble Eightfold Path statement is right action. Right action refers to avoiding behavior that harms other people intentionally or accidentally. It also means not taking what you are not the rightful owner of, so avoid stealing, fraud, etc. And also, interestingly, it entails abstaining from sexual misconduct, so avoiding illegitimate sex. I think that's also very interesting. So this is right action is sort of the ethical behavior of the Eightfold Path. So one should behave ethically and nobly. And you should act compassionately with empathy and respect towards others and follow proper sexual conduct. Why is that the case? Let's talk about the sexual conduct. I think it's the case because if you behave in sexual misconduct, I think the effects of it compound in the other aspects of your life. So, because this would need a whole video in itself, and I think I'll make one. And I've also made a video on casual sex, which you can look at, why I think casual sex is suboptimal. I think it's because you treat yourself casually, and if you start treating yourself casually in the domain of sex, your perspective on yourself, the way you treat yourself, merges into the other aspects of your life, and you'll start treating other aspects casually, and maybe also your own values, like the right speech. You won't speak as truthfully anymore, for example. Very interesting. And now the third statement of ethical conduct is right livelihood. Right livelihood refers to how you earn your money, what's your occupation. And it should be an ethical occupation, so one should avoid dealing arms, so weapons, avoid trading drugs, narcotics, alcohol, poisons. Also avoid trading like humans, so slavery, obviously, prostitution also, and also interestingly, one should avoid trading animals for slaughter, which it's interesting to know why that is the case. I think it's because the Buddha preached to be peaceful. And of course, if you're trading animals for slaughter, you are exploiting another living being's existence for your own benefit. I think that's not, let's say, just, maybe, perhaps. I'm not quite sure, but I think that's it. So hence, one should also avoid any occupation that violates the right speech and right action. So any sort of perhaps journalism which is slanderous or engaging in a certain type of politics that is deceitful politics should also be avoided. So these are the three statements of ethical conduct in the Noble Eightfold Path: right speech, right action, and right livelihood. So they all refer to this noble behavior in talking, acting, behaving, how you conduct yourself in the world, and I find that very interesting. And I'm sure there is a lot to be learned from these statements on how to reduce one's suffering in life. And I want you to remember these are all interconnected. So if you start to speak more truthfully, I think it merges into how you behave also. So they're very interdependent, and they should be approached in a holistic way. So you engage in all of them, let's say, instead of just singling them out. So that was my video on the Noble Eightfold Path, more specifically on the ethical conduct section. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for listening.